What happens when an entire generation of men finally hears the message that women and society have been sending for decades and decides to act on it in the most profound way possible by simply walking away? For years, men have been told in countless ways that their presence, their efforts, and their traditional roles were no longer required or even welcomed, and many chose to believe those words and build lives centered entirely on their own peace and self reliance. Now, as inflation continues to rise and the cost of living crisis deepens, a noticeable shift is taking place where some women who once pushed so hard for independence are expressing deep frustration and even shame over the lack of male attention and initiative in dating and everyday interactions. Stay with me through every part of this discussion, because by the end, you will see not only how we reached this point, but why the changes men have made are likely permanent and what that means for the future of relationships and society itself. If you are enjoying these Angry Guy videos and finding real value in the straightforward conversations we have here, then please show your support by buying me a Red Bull using the link in the description of the video. Every contribution helps keep this content going strong, and I truly appreciate the community backing that makes it possible. Let us begin by examining the sequence of events that has led us to this moment in a clear and honest manner. Women, as a broad group in society, spent decades sending strong signals to men that they were not needed or wanted in the ways they once were. This message came through cultural narratives, through media portrayals, and through direct statements and personal interactions, where men were often made to feel that their natural behaviors and contributions were problematic or outdated. Men listened to these repeated messages, and rather than continuing to pursue relationships or roles that felt increasingly unappreciated, they began to withdraw and focus on their own lives. In doing so, they discovered a level of peace and contentment that many had not experienced before, because solitude, when chosen deliberately, is not the same as loneliness. It became a space for self reflection, personal growth, and the pursuit of interests that brought genuine satisfaction without the complications that had come to define many modern interactions between men and women. This withdrawal did not occur in isolation, but was the result of years of accumulating experiences that taught men valuable lessons about where their energy was best invested. Decades of social changes, often labeled under the banner of progress, included efforts to redefine masculinity as something inherently negative or in need of correction. Men were frequently portrayed as the source of societal problems rather than as partners contributing to solutions. And this narrative influenced everything from education to workplace dynamics to personal relationships. Boys in school faced environments where their natural energy and learning styles were sometimes pathologized, while men in professional settings encountered policies and cultural expectations that prioritized other considerations over merit and performance. Over time, these patterns led many men to question the value of continuing to engage fully in systems that seemed designed to marginalize their efforts and contributions. As men stepped back and began living more minimalist and self focused lives, they removed unnecessary complications from their daily routines. Many embraced simplicity by cutting out expenses and activities that no longer served their well being, and instead directed their resources toward personal development hobbies that brought joy and the kind of stability that comes from not relying on others for validation or support. This approach proved effective because men by nature often thrive when they can focus on tangible goals and measurable progress without the emotional turbulence that can arise like in unbalanced relationships. They learned to value their time and attention, highly recognizing that these are finite resources best spent on pursuits that yield real returns in happiness and security. In this way, men found a form of luxury, not in material excess, but in the freedom from constant demands and expectations that had previously drained them. Meanwhile, the broader economic landscape was changing in ways that affected everyone, but particularly highlighted the vulnerabilities created by earlier choices. High inflation, combined with rising costs for housing, food, and basic necessities, created a situation where independence became more challenging for many people, regardless of gender. For women who had emphasized self sufficiency and career focus as the primary path, this reality began to set in more sharply as the support systems and social structures they once criticized were no longer as readily available. Social media platforms started showing an increasing number of voices expressing difficulty in managing these expenses alone, with some openly questioning why the anticipated partnerships or support networks had not materialized as expected. This was not a sudden crisis, but the gradual unfolding of consequences from patterns established over time, where the push for complete autonomy had overlooked the practical realities of shared responsibilities in a complex world. One of the most striking examples of this shift has been the reports of women taking proactive and sometimes unconventional steps to seek out male company in places where men are still commonly found. Hardware stores like Home Depot have become unexpected locations for these interactions because they represent one of the few public spaces where men continue to spend time in significant numbers pursuing projects and tasks that align with their interests in building and maintaining things. Stories have circulated of women visiting these stores not primarily for supplies, but in hopes of striking up conversations or receiving approaches from men who are simply going about their day. In some cases, this has involved following individuals through aisles or initiating contact in ways that feel out of character for past social norms, but reflect the growing sense of urgency driven by economic and personal pressures. These behaviors illustrate how desperation can emerge when previous strategies for connection and support no longer produce the desired results, and men on the receiving end often remain focused on their own tasks, choosing not to engage in the same manner they once might have. This development stands in contrast to the earlier periods when women had actively discouraged male approaches in many public and social settings. Gyms, bookstores, bars, and other venues saw increased instances of men being made to feel unwelcome for natural behaviors such as making eye contact or attempting polite conversation. Women, in some cases, used recording devices to document and share interactions online, often framing them in negative terms that damaged reputations and created hesitation among men about engaging at all. The cumulative effect was a widespread retreat where men decided it was safer and more productive to avoid those environments altogether and focus instead on private or male dominated spaces where they could operate without constant scrutiny. This was not an organized movement, but a natural response to repeated experiences that taught men the risks involved in traditional forms of interaction. The influence of broader cultural movements played a significant role in shaping these dynamics over the past several decades. Feminism as a framework had sought to address inequalities and expand opportunities, and in many respects, it achieved notable progress in areas like education and professional access. However, some aspects of its application led to unintended consequences in how men and women related to one another. Terms and concepts emerged that framed ordinary male behaviors as problematic, such as criticisms of posture or space usage in public areas, which contributed to a climate of caution and self censorship among men. Legal and social systems, including family courts and public discourse, sometimes amplified narratives that positioned women primarily as recipients of disadvantage, while casting men in roles that emphasized accountability without equivalent consideration for their challenges. These patterns accumulated, creating a sense among many men that the deck was stacked in ways that made the full participation in relationships or society less appealing. Men began to recognize patterns and interactions that suggested certain dynamics were not as balanced as they had been led to believe. Instances where dates were expected to be funded entirely by one party without reciprocal effort, or where conversations revolved around material expectations rather than mutual connection, highlighted a shift toward transactional elements in dating. Groups and online platforms formed where information about individuals was shared in ways that could influence social and professional standing, sometimes based on subjective experiences rather than verified facts. These practices added another layer of risk for men, considering re engagement, making the choice to remain detached seem more rational and protective of their own well being. Over time, men developed stronger pattern recognition skills, relying on observable actions and outcomes rather than promises or societal pressures to guide their decisions. As men embraced this path of self preservation, they also rediscovered aspects of their own identities that had been overshadowed by external demands. Many found fulfillment in mastering skills, pursuing hobbies, or simply enjoying the quiet satisfaction of a well ordered life without the need to constantly navigate complex emotional landscapes. This rediscovery was empowering because it allowed men to define success on their own terms rather than through the lens of providing for others or meeting expectations that felt ever shifting. The result has been a generation increasingly content with simpler, more intentional living, where resources are allocated toward personal goals and long term stability rather than short term validations or obligations. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. On the other side of this equation, women have begun to voice the challenges they face in this new reality through various platforms. Social media has become a space where expressions of frustration over the lack of dating opportunities or financial strain are more common, with some acknowledging the difficulties of managing households and expenses without the traditional support structures. Stories emerge of individuals feeling the pinch of inflation in everyday purchases or struggling to maintain lifestyles that once seemed sustainable. These accounts are not universal, but they reflect a growing awareness that the independence pursued so vigorously has come with real costs when economic conditions tighten. In response, some have called for a return to earlier norms where men took more initiative in approaching and providing. But these calls have largely gone unanswered as men continue to prioritize their established paths of peace and self focus. The contrast between the experiences of men who have walked away and the struggles now being reported is instructive. Men report higher levels of satisfaction in their daily lives, citing reduced stress, improved financial control, and greater freedom to pursue what matters to them personally. They have learned through direct experience that being alone does not equate to being unfulfilled, and that true contentment often comes from within rather than from external relationships that carry high risks and variable rewards. This internal shift has been reinforced by the observation that many past interactions involved elements of chaos or unmet expectations that drained rather than enhanced their lives. By removing themselves from those cycles, Men have created environments where they can thrive on their own terms, and this success has only strengthened their resolve to maintain the boundary. Society as a whole is witnessing the effects of these choices in subtle and not so subtle ways. The decline in marriage rates and birth rates in many developed nations points to a broader disengagement from traditional family structures, which were once seen as foundational. Economic indicators show men directing their earnings toward personal savings investments or leisure activities rather than into shared households or dating expenses. This reallocation, while beneficial for individual men, has implications for markets and social systems that previously relied on certain patterns of consumption and contribution. Women, on the other hand, are navigating a landscape where the promise of self sufficiency is tested daily against rising costs and fewer avenues for the kind of support that was once more readily available through partnerships. It is important to recognize that these developments did not arise from malice on any single side, but from a series of collective choices and cultural signals that evolved over time. Women advocated for greater autonomy, and society responded by reshaping norms, institutions, and expectations accordingly. Men adapted by prioritizing self protection and personal growth when the alternative seemed fraught with unnecessary hardship. The current moment represents the point where the long term results of those adaptations are becoming visible to all. Women experiencing financial and social pressures are confronting the reality that the world they helped shape operates differently than anticipated, and men who have found stability are unwilling to abandon the lessons that brought them there. Consider for a moment the daily life of a man who has fully embraced this path. He wakes up in a space organized to his preferences, spends his time on work or projects that challenge and reward him, and ends his day with activities that restore rather than deplete his energy. There are no constant negotiations over shared responsibilities or expectations of performance in roles that carry disproportionate risk. His finances remain under his control, allowing for choices that build security rather than fund external demands. This lifestyle is minimalist, not out of deprivation, but out of deliberate selection, where only what adds value is retained. Such men often describe a sense of clarity and purpose that was missing when they were more entangled in the pursuit of relationships that did not reciprocate in kind. In parallel, the experiences reported by some women highlight the practical difficulties of going it alone in an economy that rewards specialization and efficiency. Rent and utility costs continue to climb. Food prices fluctuate with global factors, and the expectation of handling all aspects of life without assistance can feel overwhelming. Social circles that once provided support may have narrowed, and the dating environment has become more competitive and less predictable. These pressures lead to moments of reflection where past approaches are reconsidered, but the responses from men remain consistent because their experiences have taught them caution and self reliance as primary virtues. The result is a standoff of sorts where one side seeks reconnection and the other maintains distance based on hard earned wisdom. This situation extends beyond individual stories to broader societal observations. Educational systems have produced generations with different skill sets and expectations, where young men in particular have gravitated toward fields that offer independence while navigating environments that sometimes emphasize other priorities. Workplace cultures have evolved with diversity initiatives and policies that aim for balance, but can sometimes create perceptions of uneven application. Media portrayals have shifted to reflect changing ideals, often highlighting female empowerment while portraying male roles in more critical lights. These elements combined to foster the environment where men chose withdrawal as a rational strategy for preserving their mental health and opportunities. Men who have walked away have also developed a deeper appreciation for observable reality over spoken assurances. They trust patterns they have witnessed repeatedly, such as the tendency for certain interactions to escalate into complications or for expectations to change without warning. This reliance on evidence rather than hope has protected them from repeating past mistakes and reinforced the value of their current approach. Women, in turn, are encountering the consequences of those patterns from the other side, realizing that the freedom they sought comes with the responsibility of managing outcomes independently. The economic realities of today amplify this dynamic, making the absence of traditional support structures more acutely felt. Stories shared online and in conversations reveal the human element behind these trends. A woman might describe the frustration of budgeting tightly only to see prices rise again, wondering where the stability she envisioned has gone. Another might recount attempting to connect in social settings only to find men polite but disengaged, focused on their own paths. On the male side, accounts often center on the relief of no longer carrying the mental load of constant vigilance or the financial burden of unreciprocated efforts. These narratives, when examined together, paint a picture of two groups adapting to the same changing world in divergent ways, one seeking to restore balance and the other committed to the balance they have achieved alone. The hardware store phenomenon stands out as a vivid illustration of how far the dynamic has shifted. Men frequent these locations for practical reasons related to home improvement vehicles or hobbies, and they do so without the expectation of social pursuits. When women appear with the intent of initiating contact, it can create awkward or surprising encounters because the context is not one traditionally associated with dating. Reports of following or persistent approaches in these aisles reflect a level of determination born from necessity, but they also underscore the reluctance of men to respond in kind. Having learned from prior experiences, many simply complete their task and move on, recognizing that re entering the dating arena carries costs they are no longer willing to pay. This reluctance is rooted in decades of accumulated observations, including the impact of movements that highlighted certain behaviors while downplaying others. The emphasis on victimhood in some cultural discussions created frameworks where men were often cast in adversarial roles, leading to defensive postures and eventual disengagement. Legal systems that handled family matters sometimes favored one perspective, creating financial and emotional burdens that deterred future commitments. Public shaming through recordings and online sharing added a layer of risk to everyday interactions, making men more selective about where and how they engaged. Collectively, these factors taught men that solitude offered greater control and fewer liabilities. As men continue to thrive in their chosen lifestyles, they serve as living examples of resilience and adaptation. They maintain fitness through personal routines, invest in skills that enhance their careers or hobbies, and build networks with like minded individuals who share similar values. Their days are marked by productivity and contentment rather than the pursuit of approval or the management of relational drama. This model of living has proven sustainable and appealing to increasing numbers who see the alternative as less rewarding. Women observing this from afar may feel a sense of loss or confusion because the script they followed no longer aligns with the current reality, but the changes on the male side are not easily reversed once peace has been attained. The broader implications for society are significant, though they unfold gradually. Lower rates of partnership and family formation affect everything from housing markets to consumer spending to long term demographic trends. Economies that once benefited from dual income households with traditional divisions of labor now see different patterns emerging, where individuals prioritize personal financial independence. Cultural conversations are beginning to reflect these shifts with more open discussions about the value of self reliance for both genders and the challenges of balancing autonomy with interdependence. Yet the core lesson remains that men who have walked away are demonstrating that fulfillment does not require returning to previous roles. And this example is influencing others to consider the same path. It is worth exploring in more depth the psychological and emotional journey that many men have undertaken. Initially, there may have been feelings of rejection or frustration as messages of disposability took hold, but over time, these gave way to acceptance and then empowerment. Men learned to validate themselves internally rather than seeking it from external sources that proved unreliable. They developed routines that promoted mental clarity, such as exercise reading or creative pursuits, and they surrounded themselves with environments that reinforced positive habits. This internal work was crucial because it transformed solitude from a reaction into a deliberate choice, one that brought clarity and strength. The peace they found was not passive, but active, a daily practice of choosing what served their best interests and releasing what did not. Women facing the current economic pressures are similarly on a journey of adjustment, though the direction differs. Many are confronting the reality that complete independence requires a level of resources and resilience that can be difficult to sustain alone, especially during inflationary periods. Social media serves as a mirror reflecting these struggles back to a wider audience with posts detailing budgeting challenges, job demands, and the search for meaningful connection. Some express a desire for the return of chivalrous or provider oriented behaviors from men. But these desires encounter resistance because men have internalized the earlier messages of independence and applied them fully to themselves. The resulting tension highlights the importance of clear communication and mutual understanding in any future interactions, but the foundation for that has been altered by past events. Rhetorically, one might ask what options remain when the patterns of the past no longer hold. For men, the answer has been to double down on self improvement and boundary setting, creating lives that are robust against external volatility. For women, the path involves adapting to the new landscape by building stronger personal networks, focusing on career advancement, or reevaluating priorities in light of economic truths. Society as a whole benefits when both sides acknowledge the realities rather than wishing for a return to conditions that no longer exist. The men who have walked away are not disappearing from the world. They are simply reallocating their presence and energy in ways that prioritize sustainability and personal peace. Continuing this exploration, it becomes clear that the minimalist lifestyle many men have adopted is not about deprivation, but about intentional curation. They eliminate distractions and obligations that do not align with their values, allowing more room for what truly matters. This might mean investing time in learning a new trade, maintaining physical health through consistent exercise, or enjoying hobbies that provide creative outlets without the need for external validation. Financially, they avoid lifestyle inflation, directing savings toward emergency funds or long term goals rather than discretionary spending on dates or shared expenses. The result is a sense of control and freedom that contrasts sharply with the uncertainties reported elsewhere. This approach has proven resilient in the face of economic challenges because it is built on fundamentals rather than assumptions about partnership support. In examining the role of technology and social platforms, one sees how they have accelerated these trends. Dating apps and online forums have made interactions more visible and quantifiable, revealing patterns that might have remained hidden in earlier eras. Men analyzing data from their own experiences or shared accounts have become more discerning, spotting red flags early and opting out when the risk outweighs the potential reward. Women using the same platforms have sometimes encountered frustration when matches do not translate into meaningful engagement or when conversations stall due to male caution. The transparency afforded by these tools has empowered men to trust their observations more than societal narratives, leading to the widespread decision to step back. This digital landscape has thus served as both a catalyst and a confirmation of the walking away phenomenon. The historical context provides additional perspective on why these changes feel so pronounced today. Over the past 50 years or more, societal norms around gender roles have undergone dramatic transformation, with emphasis placed on equality and individual choice. While many positive outcomes emerged, such as expanded opportunities for women, the relational aspects between men and women were also reshaped in ways that introduced new tensions. Expectations around provision, protection, and emotional labor shifted unevenly, leading to imbalances that some men found unsustainable. When combined with legal frameworks that sometimes favored one party in disputes and cultural stories that emphasized certain grievances, the environment became one where withdrawal offered a logical exit. Men did not invent this response, they responded to the cumulative signals they received and the experiences they lived. As we progress further into this discussion, it is essential to consider the long term effects on personal well being for all involved. Men who have chosen this path report lower stress levels, higher life satisfaction, and a renewed sense of purpose derived from self directed goals. They have broken free from cycles that previously led to repeated disappointment or exploitation, and in their place, built habits that foster growth and contentment. Women navigating the current challenges may experience moments of regret or realization as they confront the practical limits of going it alone, but this can also serve as a catalyst for personal adaptation and strength. The key lies in recognizing that both groups are operating from their own learned truths and that forcing a return to old dynamics is unlikely to succeed without genuine mutual respect and changed behaviors. Economic factors continue to play a central role in amplifying these dynamics. With the cost of living rising steadily, many individuals, regardless of gender, are feeling the strain, but the responses differ based on prior choices. Men who minimize dependencies and focused on personal finances are better positioned to weather the storm, maintaining stability without needing to seek external solutions. Women who emphasize career and independence but now face gaps in support networks are encountering the full weight of those expenses head on. This disparity is not punitive, but illustrative of how decisions made in one era manifest in another. Social media captures these contrasts vividly, with content showing both the triumphs of self reliant men and the struggles of those seeking reconnection. To illustrate the storytelling element more fully, imagine a typical day for a man who has fully committed to this lifestyle. He rises early, perhaps, for a workout that energizes him, then heads to work or a project where his skills are valued and compensated fairly. Lunch might be a simple prepared meal eaten in peace, followed by focused tasks that advance his goals. Evenings are reserved for hobbies, reading, or time with trusted friends who share similar outlooks. There is no pressure to perform in social arenas or to meet unspoken expectations from potential partners. His finances grow steadily because they are not diverted toward maintaining appearances or funding unbalanced interactions. This routine is sustainable and fulfilling because it aligns with his values and capabilities, providing a buffer against external pressures like inflation or social demands. Contrast this with accounts from women who describe the daily grind of managing all responsibilities alone. Rent consumes a large portion of income, groceries require careful planning, and unexpected costs can disrupt budgets entirely. The search for companionship adds another layer of effort, with apps or social outings yielding mixed results due to male disengagement. These experiences are shared openly in some circles, prompting discussions about what has changed and why approaches from men have diminished. The frustration is real and understandable, yet it stems from the same historical patterns that led men to their current stance. Breaking the cycle would require addressing root causes such as trust rebuilding and balanced expectations. But men have demonstrated through their actions that they are content to wait until conditions align more favorably or simply continue forward without looking back. Rhetorically, we can ponder the sustainability of these divergent paths. Men are proving that self reliance works on a personal level, leading to broader societal ripples as fewer enter traditional roles. Women are adapting by exploring new strategies for connection and stability, some turning to unconventional locations or direct initiatives. Society observes this evolution and debates its meaning with voices on all sides offering interpretations. The truth lies in the observable outcomes. Men are finding peace, and women are confronting realities that demand adjustment. Neither path is inherently right or wrong, but each reflects the lessons learned from past interactions and the choices made in response. Expanding on the theme of men rediscovering themselves, this process involves shedding layers of external expectation to reveal core strengths and interests. Many delve into fields like technology trades or creative arts where tangible results provide satisfaction. Physical health becomes a priority not for appearance, but for longevity and capability. Financial literacy improves as resources are stewarded carefully, leading to greater security. Social connections are selective, focusing on quality over quantity, with friends who understand and support the chosen lifestyle. This rediscovery is ongoing and enriching, allowing men to evolve beyond the roles they once occupied and into versions of themselves that feel authentic and empowered. The desperation observed in certain public spaces, like hardware stores, is a symptom of this broader evolution. Women entering these environments with the hope of natural encounters are responding to the vacuum left by male withdrawal from other venues. Men, in turn, have become more guarded, recognizing the shift in intent and choosing to remain task focused. This cat and mouse dynamic in everyday settings highlights the changed social contract, where approaches once common are now rare, and initiatives from the other side are met with caution. It is a visible manifestation of the lessons men have internalized after years of navigating what felt like inconsistent or risky terrain. As this narrative unfolds, it is clear that the men who have walked away are not returning en masse because the peace they have found is too valuable to relinquish lightly. They have seen through the patterns, recognized the risks, and opted for a life of self determination. Women experiencing the downstream effects are left to navigate their own paths of adjustment, seeking solutions that fit the current reality. Society continues to function, but with altered relationships between its members, reflecting the choices of individuals acting in their best interests. This is the world we inhabit today, shaped by decades of signals and responses, and it is one that demands honest examination if we are to understand its direction. Continuing the exploration further, we see how the concept of men walking away has roots in a fundamental reassessment of value and risk in relationships. Men evaluated the investment of time, money, and emotional energy against the returns they were receiving, and many concluded that the equation no longer balanced. Factors such as the potential for financial loss in legal proceedings, the emotional toll of unbalanced dynamics, and the cultural narrative that often placed disproportionate blame on one side contributed to this calculation. Once the decision was made, the benefits became apparent, quickly leading to a reinforcing cycle of positive experiences that solidified the choice. Peace replaced anxiety, self respect replaced seeking approval, and personal progress replaced stagnation. This transformation was not theoretical, but lived, and it spread as more men witnessed the results in their peers. Women on the receiving end of the shift have expressed a range of emotions from confusion to anger to introspection. Some have taken to platforms to share their stories of financial hardship or relational drought, hoping to prompt change. Others have attempted direct action in public spaces, as mentioned earlier, demonstrating the lengths to which the situation has evolved. These responses are human and understandable given the contrast with earlier expectations, but they also highlight the gap between past assumptions and present realities. The men who have moved on are not oblivious to these struggles, but their own experiences have taught them that stepping back in without fundamental changes would repeat the same patterns that led to the initial withdrawal. In terms of rhetorical pacing, it is useful to pause here and consider the human cost on both sides. Men sacrifice the possibility of certain traditional fulfillments in exchange for autonomy, and many have found it worthwhile. Women have gained freedoms, but face the responsibilities that accompany them without the buffer once provided by complementary roles. Both groups are navigating uncharted territory, in a sense shaped by the same cultural forces, yet responding differently based on their respective lessons. The conversation we are having today seeks to illuminate these paths without judgment, focusing instead on clarity and the observable truths that emerge from them. The economic crisis layered on top of these social changes has acted as an accelerator. Inflation erodes purchasing power, making every dollar count more heavily and forcing individuals to prioritize essentials over extras. For men already living minimally, this adjustment is smoother because their baseline is lower and their resources are directed inward. For women managing households or seeking to maintain lifestyles, the impact is more pronounced, leading to the kinds of public expressions of distress seen in various media. This disparity is not created by men, but revealed by circumstances, and it underscores the importance of personal preparedness in an unpredictable world. Men who prepared by walking away are now reaping the benefits of that foresight, while others adjust accordingly. To delve deeper into the storytelling aspect, consider the journey of an average man who once participated fully in the dating scene only to encounter repeated setbacks. He might have invested in expensive outings, received mixed signals, and faced situations where his efforts were not matched. Over time, these experiences accumulated, leading to a moment of realization that continuing the same approach yielded diminishing returns. Deciding to step back, he redirected his focus inward, discovering hobbies that brought joy, skills that advanced his career, and a social circle that respected his boundaries. Years later, he looks back with gratitude for the peace he has cultivated and little interest in revisiting the old patterns because the value proposition has not changed. His story is one of many that illustrate the irreversible nature of this shift once the threshold of self sufficiency is crossed. Women sharing their perspectives often describe a parallel but opposite arc, beginning with confidence and independence and encountering obstacles as time and economics intervene. A career that once seemed sufficient may now feel insufficient against rising costs, or the desire for companionship may resurface in the absence of easy connections. Attempts to bridge the gap through traditional or innovative means meet with limited success because the other side has already adapted and moved forward. This creates a sense of asymmetry where one group has found equilibrium and the other is still seeking it. The resolution, if it comes, will require mutual evolution, but for now, the men who have walked away remain committed to their path. As we build this narrative toward a more complete picture, it becomes evident that the phenomenon is not about blame, but about consequences and adaptation. Society sent messages, men heard them and responded in ways that protected their interests. Women pursued visions of empowerment and are now living the full spectrum of that pursuit, including its challenges. The current moment is one of a reckoning where both sides are forced to confront the outcomes of their collective choices. Men are thriving in solitude, not because they hate the alternative, but because they have found something better for themselves. Women are voicing their difficulties not to assign fault, but to express the realities they face. Understanding this dynamic without emotional overlay allows for clearer thinking about the future. The places where men congregate, like hardware stores, gyms, or online communities dedicated to male interests, have become sanctuaries of sorts where the focus remains on productivity, camaraderie, and self improvement rather than social performance. Women entering these spaces with different intentions disrupt the equilibrium temporarily, but men have learned to maintain their focus, choosing not to engage in the ways that were once expected. This boundary setting is a key element of the walking away philosophy. It is not hostility, but self preservation honed by experience. The result is a cultural landscape where interactions are more deliberate and less frequent in the traditional sense, leading to the observations we see today. Expanding on the theme of female nature and relationship dynamics, men have come to view certain patterns as recurring based on observable evidence rather than individual exceptions. Chaos in interactions, the pursuit of validation through drama, or the shifting of expectations without clear communication were noted repeatedly, leading to a decision to disengage from those cycles. By removing themselves, men eliminated the source of that turbulence and replaced it with stability. This choice was pragmatic, not emotional, and it has paid dividends in mental clarity and life satisfaction. Women may perceive this as rejection, but from the male perspective, it is simply the application of hard won wisdom to protect what matters most, their own peace and progress. Building upon this foundation, we can now examine the longer term consequences that are emerging as more men continue to prioritize their own paths of self reliance and personal peace. Consider for a moment the way entire communities are beginning to reshape themselves around these individual decisions. Neighborhoods once filled with the energy of young families forming and growing are seeing slower paces of change as fewer men step into roles that involve shared financial responsibilities or long term commitments. This is not a sudden collapse, but a gradual evolution where the focus shifts toward individual stability and smaller, more intentional living arrangements. And men who have made this choice report feeling a profound sense of control over their futures because they no longer carry the weight of expectations that once defined their interactions with the opposite sex. They invest their time in mastering trades, developing skills in technology, or simply enjoying the quiet satisfaction of maintaining their own spaces without external pressures pulling them in multiple directions. Picture a man in his 30s who once spent evenings scrolling through dating profiles and attending social events that yielded little in return. He reached a point where the pattern became clear. The effort invested rarely matched the outcome in terms of mutual respect or genuine connection. Today, he rises each morning to a routine built around his own goals, perhaps working on a side project that builds his financial independence or engaging in physical training that strengthens both body and mind. His evenings are spent reading or pursuing a hobby like woodworking or coding that brings tangible results and a deep sense of accomplishment. There is no drama, no unspoken rules, no fear of misinterpretation in everyday encounters. This lifestyle has allowed him to build savings that serve as a buffer against economic fluctuations and to form friendships with others who share the same outlook on self preservation. Stories like his are becoming more common, and they illustrate how the decision to step back creates space for growth that feels authentic and sustainable over decades rather than fleeting moments of validation. As we explore these personal transformations, it becomes evident that the ripple effects extend into professional spheres as well. Workplaces that once relied on certain levels of male engagement in social or networking activities are noticing shifts in team dynamics and retention patterns. Men who have embraced this mindset often excel in roles that reward focus and independence because they bring a level of dedication unburdened by personal distractions that might have previously competed for their attention. Employers in fields ranging from engineering to skilled trades are seeing higher productivity from individuals who have learned to value their own time and energy highly. This professional success further reinforces the choice because it proves that fulfillment and advancement do not require returning to old relational patterns. The men involved are not isolated. They maintain professional relationships and contribute meaningfully, but they do so on terms that protect their well being and avoid the pitfalls that once led to burnout or resentment. Turning our attention to the experiences of women navigating this new landscape, we see a range of adaptations taking shape through public expressions and private reflections shared across various platforms. Many are openly discussing the challenges of maintaining financial stability amid rising costs and the difficulty of forming connections when traditional approaches from men have diminished. These conversations often carry a tone of honest assessment, where individuals reflect on the realities of managing households, careers, and personal needs without the support structures they may have anticipated. Some describe exploring new ways to build networks through professional groups or community activities that foster independence while still allowing for social fulfillment. Others are rethinking priorities in light of observable outcomes, choosing to focus on career advancement or skill development that enhances their self sufficiency. This process of adjustment is ongoing, and it highlights the resilience required to thrive when societal norms shift in unexpected ways. Rhetorically, one might ask what the coming decade holds if these trends continue without significant reversal. Projections based on current patterns suggest that demographic changes will accelerate with lower rates of partnership, leading to smaller family units and altered population dynamics in many regions. Cities and towns may see transformations in housing demand as more individuals opt for compact, efficient living rather than larger shared spaces. Consumer markets are already responding with products and services tailored to solo lifestyles, from meal planning tools designed for one person to recreational activities that emphasize personal enjoyment. Men who have walked away are contributing to this shift by directing their resources toward investments in personal assets, technology upgrades, or experiences that align with their values. The result is an economy that increasingly caters to self directed consumers rather than those focused on family oriented spending. This evolution is neither inherently positive nor negative, but it represents a clear departure from previous models, and it demands thoughtful navigation from all involved. To illustrate the depth of this change, consider the story of a group of men who formed an informal network centered on shared interests in outdoor activities and skill building. What began as casual meetups evolved into a support system where members encouraged one another to pursue certifications in high demand fields or to develop side businesses that provided additional security. These men had each experienced the frustration of relationships that felt one sided or fraught with unnecessary complications, and they chose instead to channel their energy into bonds built on mutual respect and common goals. Over time, their collective success became evident through improved financial positions, stronger physical health, and a shared sense of purpose that transcended individual efforts. They did not reject society, they simply redefined their place within it, focusing on contributions that brought personal reward without the risks they had come to associate with more traditional paths. Their experiences serve as powerful examples for others observing the benefits of deliberate detachment from cycles that no longer serve them. On the other side, women who are confronting these realities are finding creative ways to address the gaps they encounter. Some are turning to educational resources to enhance their earning potential or exploring entrepreneurial ventures that allow greater control over their financial futures. Public discussions reveal a growing emphasis on building supportive circles among peers where experiences are shared and strategies for independence are exchanged. This is a period of reflection where past approaches are evaluated against current outcomes, leading to adjustments that prioritize practical solutions over idealized expectations. The intensity of these adjustments reflects the directness with which many are facing the situation, recognizing that waiting for external change is less effective than taking proactive steps within their own control. It is a testament to human adaptability that such shifts are occurring, even as the underlying patterns persist. Delving deeper into the psychological aspects, we see how men have cultivated inner strength through this process of self discovery. The peace they describe comes not from avoidance, but from a conscious alignment of actions with personal values. They have learned to trust their own judgment after years of observing patterns that proved unreliable, and this trust has translated into greater confidence across all areas of life. Daily practices such as mindfulness, through exercise or structured goal setting, have become cornerstones of their routines, helping to maintain clarity amid broader societal changes. This internal work has ripple effects, making them more effective in their careers, more present in their hobbies, and more content in their solitude. It is a form of empowerment that arises from within rather than depending on external approval. And it explains why the pull to return to previous dynamics feels increasingly weak for those who have experienced it. Societal institutions are also feeling the influence of these choices in subtle yet meaningful ways. Educational systems that prepare young people for adulthood are beginning to incorporate discussions around personal responsibility and self reliance as essential skills for navigating uncertainty. Policy conversations around family support and economic stability are taking on new dimensions as data reflects changing participation rates in traditional structures. Cultural narratives in media and entertainment are slowly reflecting these realities with stories that explore themes of individual resilience and redefined roles. While the pace of institutional change can feel slow, the direction is clear, driven by the observable behaviors of millions making decisions based on their lived experiences. Men who have walked away are part of this larger movement, demonstrating through their lives that alternative paths can lead to fulfillment and stability. As we consider the future outlook, it is worth exploring how these trends might intersect with technological advancements and global economic shifts. Innovations in remote work and digital connectivity have made self sufficient lifestyles more accessible, allowing men to build careers without the need for urban centers that once served as primary social hubs. This flexibility enhances their ability to maintain boundaries that protect their peace while still engaging productively with the world. For women adapting to similar economic pressures, technology offers tools for networking, skill building, and financial management that can bridge some of the gaps created by reduced traditional interactions. The interplay between human choices and technological progress creates a dynamic environment where those who embrace self reliance are positioned to benefit most. The men in question have already integrated these tools into their lives, turning potential challenges into opportunities for greater independence. Story after story emerges from individuals who have fully committed to this way of living, and each one reinforces the same core truth. A man who left behind the cycle of unbalanced dating investments now finds joy in restoring classic vehicles as a hobby, turning it into a small business that provides both income and satisfaction. Another focuses his energy on community volunteer work in areas aligned with his skills, such as mentoring young people in practical trades, without the complications of personal entanglements. These accounts are not isolated anomalies, but part of a growing pattern where the emphasis on observable results over promised outcomes has led to more deliberate and rewarding existences. The rhetorical question that arises is simple. If the alternative path has proven superior for so many, why would rational individuals choose to abandon it? The answer lies in the hard earned lessons that have reshaped priorities and the tangible benefits that continue to accumulate over time. Women who are vocal about their experiences in this context often emphasize the importance of realistic expectations moving forward. They share insights gained from navigating financial independence and social landscapes that have evolved, and many are advocating for approaches that emphasize mutual effort and clear communication in any future interactions. This shift toward practicality is a positive development because it acknowledges the changed reality rather than wishing for a return to conditions that no longer apply. Communities are forming around these ideas where support is exchanged and strategies are refined based on what actually works in the current environment. The directness of these discussions reflects a maturing perspective that values honesty over idealism, and it parallels the clarity men have found in their own choices. The broader cultural impact cannot be overstated as entertainment and public discourse begin to mirror these lived realities. Content creators across platforms are exploring themes of self discovery and boundary setting with increasing frequency, resonating with audiences who recognize elements of their own journeys. This cultural reflection helps normalize the idea that personal peace is a legitimate priority and that stepping back from unfulfilling dynamics is not a failure, but a form of wisdom. Men who have walked away are often portrayed in these narratives as examples of quiet strength, individuals who have chosen substance over spectacle and who reap the rewards of that decision. The pacing of societal change feels measured yet inevitable as each new generation observes the outcomes and adjusts accordingly. In workplaces and educational settings, the emphasis on personal agency is gaining ground. Programs that teach financial literacy, emotional resilience, and independent problem solving are seeing greater interest because they equip people to handle life on their own terms. Men benefit from this focus because it aligns with the skills they have honed through their experiences, while women find tools to strengthen their own positions amid economic pressures. The result is a more balanced approach to personal development that does not rely on outdated assumptions about roles, but instead promotes capability across the board. This evolution in thinking is crucial for long term societal health because it encourages responsibility at the individual level rather than dependence on collective structures that may not always deliver as expected. Looking ahead to the next generation, the lessons from this era are likely to shape how young people view relationships and success. Boys observing the successes of men who prioritize self reliance may internalize the value of building their own foundations before considering partnerships. Girls witnessing the adaptations of women in this environment may develop stronger emphases on personal preparedness and realistic expectations. The storytelling here is one of continuity where each generation builds on the observations of the last, refining their strategies for happiness and stability. It is a rhetorical progression that moves from reaction to reflection to proactive creation, and it holds promise for more balanced outcomes if approached with openness and honesty. The intensity of the current moment stems from the clarity with which these patterns have become visible. Men are not hiding, they are living openly in ways that demonstrate the viability of their choices, and this visibility encourages others to consider similar paths. Women are responding with equal directness, sharing their truths and seeking solutions that fit the times. Together, these efforts create a dialogue that, while sometimes tense, is ultimately productive because it is grounded in reality rather than illusion. The professional lens through which we view this is one of respect for the human capacity to adapt and the importance of learning from collective experiences. Further examples highlight the diversity of ways men are thriving in their chosen lifestyles. One individual has turned his passion for sustainable living into a full time endeavor, creating content and products that help others achieve similar independence. Another has dedicated time to physical fitness and mental wellness, becoming a source of inspiration within his circle without the need for romantic validation. These men share a common thread of contentment derived from alignment between actions and values, and their stories serve as beacons for those still navigating their own decisions. The rhetorical power of such narratives lies in their authenticity, each one a living proof that peace is attainable through deliberate choice. As women continue to adapt, we see increasing focus on building legacies that stand independent of external factors. Career paths are being forged with long term vision. Financial habits are being cultivated with discipline, and social connections are being nurtured for their genuine value. This process is not without its challenges, but it reflects a commitment to growth that mirrors the resolve men have shown in their own spheres. The parallel journeys, while different in expression, are united by the underlying drive for self determination. And this commonality offers a foundation for future understanding if both sides remain committed to clear communication. Societal structures are adjusting in response to these shifts, with businesses innovating to meet the needs of a population that values flexibility and autonomy. From co living spaces designed for independent adults to services that streamline solo management, the market is responding to demand created by millions making intentional choices. This economic adaptation underscores the permanence of the trend because it is not driven by temporary fads, but by deep seated preferences rooted in experience. Men who have walked away are active participants in this economy, contributing through their spending and innovation while maintaining the boundaries that preserve their peace. The future appears one where personal responsibility takes center stage. Individuals of all backgrounds are encouraged to cultivate skills that enhance their resilience and to make decisions based on observable outcomes rather than societal scripts. This shift promotes a healthier dynamic overall because it reduces the potential for resentment and increases the likelihood of voluntary, mutually beneficial interactions should they occur. The men at the heart of this movement have demonstrated that such an approach works, and their example continues to influence the broader conversation about what constitutes a fulfilling life in modern times. As we move forward in understanding the full scope of these developments, it becomes essential to explore the ways in which individual choices are quietly reshaping entire industries and cultural landscapes in ways that were once difficult to anticipate. Take, for instance, the story of a man named Marcus who spent his early adulthood chasing the traditional path of career advancement paired with the pursuit of meaningful relationships, only to find that the constant balancing act left him drained and unfulfilled. After stepping back from the cycle of unbalanced expectations, he channeled his long held interest in sustainable agriculture into a specialized consulting practice that helps small scale operations optimize their land use without relying on external partnerships for stability. Marcus now wakes each day to a schedule he designs around his expertise, traveling to client sites where his knowledge is valued purely for its practical results. His work has grown into a steady income stream that supports a modest yet comfortable property where he experiments with new growing techniques in his spare time, turning what began as a personal hobby into a legacy project that brings him deep satisfaction. Stories like Marcus demonstrate how the decision to prioritize personal peace opens doors to innovation that might otherwise remain unexplored, because the mental space, once occupied by navigating complex interpersonal dynamics, is now free for creative and professional mastery. This pattern repeats across countless lives where men have redirected their focus toward fields that reward precision and self direction. In the realm of technology, for example, many have gravitated toward developing open source tools or specialized software solutions that address everyday challenges in logistics or personal finance management. One such individual started by automating his own household systems to eliminate unnecessary expenses and soon found himself creating tutorials and custom scripts that thousands now use to achieve similar levels of independence. His online presence grew organically through shared knowledge rather than self promotion, and the community that formed around his work consists of like minded individuals exchanging ideas on efficiency and resilience. These digital spaces serve as modern gathering points where expertise is exchanged freely, and the emphasis remains on tangible outcomes rather than social performance. The rhetorical question here is whether this kind of focused contribution represents a loss for broader society or a gain in the form of accelerated problem solving that benefits everyone through better tools and systems. Beyond individual pursuits, the formation of informal networks among men who share this outlook has led to collaborative projects that emphasize skill sharing and mutual support without the complications of traditional social obligations. Groups dedicated to wilderness survival training or advanced mechanical repair have emerged in various regions where participants gather periodically to practice techniques that enhance self sufficiency while building bonds rooted in shared competence. In one documented case, a collective of engineers and tradespeople pooled resources to restore a historic building, turning it into a hub for workshops on renewable energy solutions. Their efforts not only preserved a piece of local history, but also generated income through paid classes that attract participants seeking practical knowledge for their own independent lifestyles. These initiatives highlight a shift toward community building that is purposeful and low maintenance, allowing men to contribute meaningfully while maintaining the boundaries that protect their personal equilibrium. The intensity of their commitment comes from a direct recognition that time and energy are precious resources best invested where they yield lasting value. Women who are actively adapting to this environment are likewise forging pathways that emphasize strategic career moves and peer driven support structures designed to maximize their autonomy in an evolving economy. Many have formed professional alliances within industries that value specialized knowledge, such as healthcare administration or digital marketing, where collaborative projects allow for shared workloads without depending on external emotional or financial inputs. A notable example involves a network of women entrepreneurs who developed a subscription based platform for customized financial planning tools tailored to single income households navigating inflation pressures. Their venture grew from shared frustrations over budgeting challenges and now provides resources that empower users to make informed decisions based on real time economic data. This approach reflects a clear eyed assessment of current realities where self directed growth takes precedence and the focus remains on building capabilities that stand independently. The pacing of these adaptations shows a rhetorical progression from initial adjustment to proactive innovation as more individuals recognize the need to align their strategies with observable conditions rather than outdated assumptions. Looking at the younger generation, the influences of these trends are becoming particularly pronounced in how adolescents and young adults approach education and early career choices. Boys who observe the successes of older men prioritizing self reliance often select programs in vocational training or STEM disciplines that offer clear paths to independence and measurable progress. They learn early on the importance of financial literacy and practical skills that reduce vulnerability to economic shifts, choosing courses in areas like renewable energy installation or software development, where demand remains strong regardless of relational status. Girls, in turn, are increasingly encouraged through mentorship programs to develop comprehensive plans for long term security, including advanced certifications in fields that support flexible work arrangements. Educational institutions are responding by incorporating modules on personal resilience and resource management into curricula, preparing students for a world where individual accountability is paramount. This generational shift carries a storytelling quality of its own, where each young person crafts their narrative around capability rather than expectation, creating a foundation for future stability that feels both realistic and empowering. Economically, these changes are manifesting in subtle but significant ways across housing markets and consumer behavior. With more individuals opting for smaller, efficient living spaces, demand has increased for modular homes and smart technology integrations that simplify maintenance and reduce ongoing costs. Real estate developers are noting a rise in single occupancy purchases, particularly among men who have built financial cushions through disciplined saving and investment strategies. This trend influences urban planning as cities adapt to populations that prioritize proximity to work or recreational amenities over family sized accommodations. Retail sectors are likewise evolving with growth in categories such as durable goods for personal use, high quality tools, and subscription services for specialized hobbies that cater to self directed lifestyles. The result is an economy that increasingly rewards those who have embraced minimalism and foresight, allowing them to weather fluctuations with greater ease, while others adjust their consumption patterns accordingly. Technological advancements further amplify these dynamics by providing tools that enhance personal control and efficiency. Artificial intelligence applications, for example, now assist with everything from optimizing personal budgets to generating customized training programs for physical fitness or skill acquisition. Men who have walked away from previous patterns often integrate these technologies seamlessly into their routines, using them to automate routine tasks and free up time for higher value activities such as creative projects or strategic planning. One innovator developed an AI assisted platform for tracking personal goals that has gained popularity among those seeking structured progress without external accountability. For women, navigating similar economic landscapes, these same tools offer opportunities to streamline operations in small businesses or personal finances, creating efficiencies that support sustained independence. The interplay between human intention and technological support creates a feedback loop where self reliance becomes not only feasible, but increasingly sophisticated, leading to lifestyles that are both streamlined and fulfilling. Philosophically, this era invites reflection on the nature of purpose and fulfillment in a world that no longer adheres to traditional scripts. Men who have pursued this path often describe a profound sense of alignment, where their daily actions reflect core values of competence, integrity, and self mastery. They speak of rediscovering the intrinsic rewards of craftsmanship, whether in physical trades or intellectual pursuits, where the outcome depends solely on their effort and insight. This rediscovery carries a rhetorical weight that challenges conventional notions of success, suggesting that true contentment arises from internal standards rather than external validation. The directness of their experiences underscores a timeless truth that personal peace is cultivated through deliberate practice and the willingness to release what no longer serves growth. Women engaged in parallel journeys of adaptation similarly articulate the value of building lives grounded in capability and mutual respect within their circles, emphasizing how these foundations provide a steady anchor amid uncertainty. The long term outlook for society as these patterns solidify points toward a more decentralized model of contribution and connection. Industries that rely on collaborative innovation are seeing benefits from diverse perspectives that emerge when individuals bring their honed skills to the table without the distractions of unbalanced dynamics. Creative fields, in particular, are experiencing a surge in output from those who have carved out space for uninterrupted focus, leading to advancements in areas like sustainable design and digital storytelling. Cultural institutions are beginning to reflect these realities through programming that celebrates individual resilience and the quiet strength found in self directed lives. As demographic shifts continue, the emphasis on quality over quantity in relationships may foster deeper, more intentional interactions where they do occur grounded in mutual understanding rather than obligation. This evolution, while gradual, carries the potential for a more balanced collective experience where personal agency enhances rather than diminishes communal progress. In considering the sustainability of these paths, it is useful to examine how they hold up against ongoing global challenges such as supply chain disruptions or environmental considerations. Men who have built minimalist frameworks with an eye toward resilience are often better positioned to adapt because their lifestyles incorporate buffers like diversified income sources or localized resource management. Their stories of overcoming obstacles through ingenuity serve as instructive narratives for broader audiences, illustrating how foresight and adaptability create enduring stability. Women who have refined their strategies through practical experience contribute complementary insights that enrich the overall discourse on self sufficiency, emphasizing the importance of network support and strategic planning. Together, these approaches form a comprehensive response to modern complexities where the focus remains on observable results and continuous improvement. The narrative arc of this transformation continues to unfold with each passing year, revealing new layers of possibility and adjustment. It is a story of human ingenuity applied to the realities of the present, where choices made in pursuit of peace and purpose yield outcomes that extend far beyond the individual. As more people engage with these ideas through personal reflection or shared experiences, the collective understanding deepens, fostering environments where clarity and directness guide future interactions. The intensity of the current moment lies in its invitation to examine our own roles within this larger picture, recognizing that each decision contributes to the shaping of what comes next. This rhetorical journey from individual action to societal impact reminds us that progress often emerges from the quiet determination of those who choose to align their lives with what truly matters. A shout out to the 1 hour gang. What did you think about what was discussed today? Do you agree with the observations and insights shared here? Leave a comment on the video sharing your thoughts because your perspective adds real value to this conversation and helps others who are navigating similar situations. Like the video if you like it, Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away, and cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.